stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, can you please proceed with roll call, beginning with our esteemed mayor?
Mayor Hepkins.
Present.
President
Present.
President Francis.
Present.
Councilor Johnson.
Present.
Councilor Cave.
Hi, everybody. I'm here.
Councilor McCabe.
Present.
Councilor Jones Waters.
Present.
Councilor Rowe-Cloud.
Here.
Solicitor Gibbs.
Hello, I'm present.
James. Ms. James, I see you, but I don't hear you.
Oh, present. Present.
Ms. Mulvana
Here.
and Mr. Nichols.
Present.
That completes roll call.
All right. Next, we'll move on to our citizens forum. If there are any citizens wishing to speak, please indicate so in the chat or raise your hand, raise your virtual hand.
I have two, ma'am. I'll start with Miss Mary Gorell, if I may.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
First, I want to thank Mr. Gibbs publicly because of the meeting that we had a couple weeks ago about that land on Union Avenue. I thought that what he said made a big difference. I really appreciated that. Number two, on the borough website where it indicates the meetings, it's still listed as third floor, and everybody should know that they're all virtual, but is there any way that could be changed? Because I think it's still throwing some people off.
Absolutely. We'll have that changed first thing tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm. And for those who may not know, thank you, Ms. Gorell. Ms. Gorell is referencing the William Santora zoning hearing where Mr. Gibbs represented the borough of Yeadon. And he was successful in getting the gentleman to withdraw his application to put a solid waste management facility right near where he put the storage facility. Okay, Mr. Gibbs, you said there was another person wishing to speak.
Yes, Leon Howard, ma'am. I'm sorry, Miss Gorell. We actually have your information. Mr. Howard, could you state your name and your address, please?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leon Howard. I reside at 194 Park Place in Yeadon, Pennsylvania. And I am the president and the basketball commissioner of the Yeadon Education Athletic Association, better known as YEAA. I just had a question in regards to the application that was submitted for our grant that we do every year. And I received an email from Borough Manager, Ms. Presswood, about some additional questions about our proposal. I sent that information in, and I just wanted to, if it's possible, get an update on where the application stands and see if there's any questions or anything that needs to be cleared up by the board.
Madam President, may I speak?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I do have one question. I'd like to know what fundraisers do you do to offset, and if you receive funds from any other organization to aid your effort?
Yes. Every year we do the Joe Corby's, which is very, very well known within schools, elementary schools. So we do the Joe Corby's pizza every year. We actually also do, which we just started, the famous popcorn fundraisers through Double Good. And then, yes, we have applied for other grants. We have a relationship with the National Basketball Players Association. And also we have a new relationship with the Delaware County Foundation. So those are other entities that we have also looked for funding to not only just go with the athletics, but also with our mentoring and tutoring programs.
And how many other board members are there?
There is 8 of us.
All right.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Howard, what portion of your overall budget are you actually requesting from the Borough of Yeadon?
The same that has been in the past. We didn't have any increase in requests, even though, because of the pandemic, our winter season last year was shut down. We were looking to possibly go into summer of 2020, but again, because of the pandemic, we decided to be safe and put on caution. And we didn't even have our fall soccer league as well. And again, because we use 3 facilities in the school district, we know with them being virtual or hybrid, some in person, some out there, we didn't ask to be um, to have our winter season. So nothing's really changed as far as the dollar amount that we're asking. We're just in preparation for our summer league, which hopefully, again, based on the conditions of the pandemic, things have flattened. We'll be able to continue with our summer league, which we're anticipating that it's definitely going to grow because we're going to have 3 courts using and partnering up with the Nile Swim Club with a brand new court there. So we'll still have the 2 courts at the park and then a court at the Nile. So we expect growth, which will be more fees, more uniforms, and more referee fees. But having that said, we're still looking at the same request that we've been doing for the last several years.
Okay, thank you,
But
but
how-
I'm not sure that answered my actual question. So what percentage of your overall budget are you requesting from Yeadon Borough?
Okay. It's normally about 10 to 15%.
Okay, and then the rest of the money you
So of
raise in other ways?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
we always have registration, so that plays a big factor. That covers a healthy cost of the referee fees, insurance, uniforms, things of that nature. So yeah, our funds are always raised. We don't rely just on the 10,000 that we normally get from the borough. We have our registration fee plus our fundraisers that help us continue to meet our budget and be able to handle all of our expenses.
I have a quick question. Could you give us a ballpark of what your, because of COVID last year, what percentage of your expenditures did you not have to pay out? Right, like so, since a lot of the seasons were unfortunately shut down, I guess my assumption is some of your expenses did not have to be paid as well. Could you give us a ballpark of how COVID impacted what you normally would have paid out?
Yes. So right in the middle of March, when everything shut down in 2020, we had 2 more weeks left of our season. What we have been doing with our mentoring program is the very last session, which is the last Saturday of the season, which is normally the 3rd week of March. We have started to give scholarship money to our high school seniors. So we weren't able to do that because of the funds that we normally get from registration and from the continued fundraiser, because again, it's shut down. So I would say about maybe 7 to 10% of that normal flux of money coming in wasn't there. And then again, obviously nothing came in the summer because we didn't have any registration. We didn't do any type of fundraising events for the summer league and preparing for fall soccer.
And what is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think I was thinking not necessarily what came in, but what you had to pay out in expenses.
The normal expenses was still the insurance.
So what didn't you have to? So I'm sorry. What didn't you have to pay because of the shutdown? Right, like so. If you didn't have certain seasons, are there things like uniforms and equipment that you didn't have to pay because of COVID?
Yeah, what we didn't have to pay was definitely uniforms, the referee fees because we didn't have any games, and if there was any other fees, we did have a snack bar or a concession stand, so we didn't have to buy any concession items for the end of our winter league going into the summer.
So for all those things that you didn't have to pay, do you have an idea of how much of a percentage from year to year, right? Like, so
Mhm.
was it 10% that you didn't have to spend, 25, 50? I'm just trying to get a rough idea.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah, I would say probably between 10 to 12% that we didn't have to spend.
Okay, thank you.
One other question. One other question. What is your plan for social distancing if
Yes,
you're planning on registering more children?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because we started to prepare for the summer league last year with, again, hoping that this pandemic would flatten. And then as the county went into the green zone, we had a board meeting on CDC guidelines. I was following what the state of Pennsylvania was doing. And because of the relationship that our organization was able to partner with the NBPPA, which is the National Basketball Association, we just had a call in regards to how they are pretty much showing their guidelines as what was done in the bubble for the NBA. So they were able to provide us with a PowerPoint that we can use for our family, any members that want to participate. So we've already started putting things. We had one of our coaches that already donated 100 plus bottles of hand sanitizer. We were going to get signs. We actually were going to also decrease our rosters from normally a basketball team, there's 12 players. So we're going to reduce that to 10. And then as always, social distancing on the benches, the coaches would have to wear masks, kids would have to wear masks. And being outside was, as was always recommended, would be a good ventilation or, just being in the natural air. So we've already had that from the previous summer and plans for this particular summer, and then continue to follow what the CDC says and the local health authorities on what we should do in regards to youth sports and being safe with social distancing and things of that nature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other citizens wishing to speak, Mr. Gibbs?
No one else has raised their hand, Madam President.
All right. We'll move on to our mayor's report then. Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Okay, thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of things to underscore. Citizens Forum schedule is out. Public safety schedules out. On the Yeadon Community Health Center, we had a grand opening on January 28th. It was very well attended and generated a lot of press. A lot of somewhat resentment too, because a lot of other municipalities were upset that Yeadon got that honor, and they've been asking county council why Yeadon and not their municipality. So it's a great honor and boon that Yeadon has that distinction. The health center will also serve, we're told by county council, as the county health department site when that's incorporated. Right now, Delaware County is the only county, I believe, in the state that doesn't have a health department. So that will be the home of the health department. So very major thing that happened in Yeadon. It's going to, they are distributing or administering rather the COVID vaccine. It's been closed this week though, because they ran out of vaccine. So on the vaccine angle, it's been extremely slow, especially in Pennsylvania. You could find out information on how to get the vaccine online at a website, and there are various different links. You could go to Mercy Fitzgerald Hospital website. I was on a Zoom yesterday with black mayors, over 100 black mayors around the country, hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris, and her the major talk was on the corona vaccines, and she said that her and President Biden will soon be rolling out $20 billion rescue plan, which will center on vaccine distribution. They acknowledge that it's been way too slow right now. The three pharmaceutical companies that whose vaccines have been approved, as Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna. Right now, Johnson & Johnson, J&J are trying to get approval from the CDC to come out with theirs. When theirs come out, that will be a one-shot vaccine as opposed to the other three, which are 2 shots. And we're not going to see a real big difference until I believe early summer, late spring, early summer, where many more million Americans will be will receive the vaccine. So I don't think we'll see a big dent in the. I think about 40 million Americans have been have received the vaccine in some stage, either first or second, and we need it's got to be like 75% of the population for us to get build up to herd immunity, where it pretty much stops the spread of the vaccine. That's where we are, though. It's really scarce, and the administration's trying to ramp up production and deliver those to the states. The other thing she did say is that federal government's going to step in. They're going to have federal sites around the country, add federal sites in the vaccination plan, utilize the military and the Defense Production Act to ramp up the spread of the vaccine. So that will alleviate the pressure on the system and really help the states. And she wants to also, they want to drill down, make sure it goes into the communities of need, and especially African-American communities where we've been disproportionately bypassed in the vaccine rollout. So that's it on the vaccine. Snow removal. We've had some residents. We've had more snow this season than in previous years. But one of the things that has happened, we used to have a pool of people who volunteered to remove snow for the elderly, and that pool is dried up. We don't have anybody right now, I don't believe, on the pool. That has been brought to the attention of the borough management. They've put out a request on Facebook for volunteers, so that there'll be a pool built up again for volunteers to help the seniors. Nile Swim Club, again, I think it's worth noting the Nile Swim Club. It was a combined effort by a lot of us. I sent a mayoral request to the state as well to have the Nile Swim Club recognized as a historical site marker, meaning it will go into a permanent record that it's a historical site in the state, and that was approved. So the Nile Swim Club is going to be recognized by the state as one of the historical sites within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. There's going to be a dedication ceremony held at the Nile on Saturday, May 22nd. Right now, it's tentatively scheduled for 10 a.m. Updates, you'll find updates on the borough website, as well as the library, Yeadon Public Library website. And the other thing with the Nile is they've been delivering 1,000 boxes of food each Saturday to our local residents. They're doing a great job. I was there this past Saturday, and so Anthony Patterson and his staff are doing a really great job. This Saturday, they're doubling that. There's going to be 2,000 boxes of food. So really yeoman's work that they're doing, and it's been a great blessing for the community. There's a couple other things, but I will address that in public safety. The only thing I did want to say with the Yeadon Public Library is ready to reopen, and they've got some things going, but I'll see that announcement to Clay Payne, our new library director. That there is my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam President, may I speak, Madam President?
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, Madam President, for your next door neighbor alertment to the community, as well as as far as for trash during the snowstorm. Although we do have many other ways that the community do get information. We have web, we have Borough News, we have the calendar, and of course we also have the cable channel for those that are not computer savvy, such as myself. Also, I'd like to thank some of the neighbors, the community residents, who actually informed other residents of the change in the trash pickup here in Yeadon. One resident told me about Delco Alert, and I was wondering, Madam President, is how can we get that out? That's a county web, but how can we get that out to the community, even if we have to put that website on Next Door Neighbor, so that more will be informed of trash change and other things that happens because of snowstorms.
Mhm. Thank you, Councilor Johnson. I know that, while we do have a ton of mediums, you can never get too much information when it comes to community services. So another form of communication that we use is My Civic app, and Yeadon has its own app that you can download straight to your smartphone and receive updates that way as well. But the Delco alerts, I believe, Miranda, is there a link on our website to how to sign up for the emergency alerts?
Yeah, and that's also been in the newsletter. It should also be on the cable channel. All that information for the Delco alert should be on all our resources as well.
Great. So we have resources at the county level, at the municipal level, and then just various ways that you can be informed. The best way is, word of mouth too, for your neighbors who may not be connected to,
Exactly.
when you have that information, you can let them know. But yes, but that information is available on our website. And maybe, Miranda, if you could just maybe copy and paste it into the chat section. Um, uh, Constituents can get it from there as well.
Okay, give me a few minutes after my report.
That would
All
be
right.
great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I actually have a
Not a
question for the mayor. I was listening to you with respect to the vaccinations for the coronavirus. So I do believe that everyone should be vaccinated, but it's kind of hard to expect people to get the vaccine if they don't know what they're actually getting. I think it would behoove us to provide some sort of education with respect to the different vaccines that are currently available and a vaccine that is on its way, I believe J&J. There are some differences, and I think that's why people are a little slow in running to the clinics to get vaccinated. So I was just wondering, are we going to do something as a borough just to inform our residents, some sort of webinar, for a medical professional to come and just explain the differences between the vaccination, so people will be able to make an informed decision when they choose to get vaccinated.
So Mayor, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, there's a town hall that's circulating, and it'll actually be posted on our website tomorrow as well. We've been in contact with our state and our state officials, and they've put together a webinar. It will be held on Tuesday, February 16th from 3:30 to 4:30. Representative McClinton and Senator Williams have, will be hosting it on behalf of the municipalities that they represent. And you'll be able to get that information from our website tomorrow. We just received it in our emails and we'll post it. So all of that information will be Tuesday. It's an educational town hall specifically on the COVID-19
Is it a Zoom?
vaccine, where
Is
you
it
can
Zoom?
learn how to, yes, it's a Zoom. Where
Okay,
you would learn about the different types of vaccines and also different ways you can sign up to get it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
But also, in addition to Councilor Roadcloud's question, the next mayor's forum on March 4th, the plan is to have someone from the county. I'm going to invite somebody from the county to explain more about the wellness center and focus the attention and questions around the wellness center, which also will incorporate vaccination and the like. So that's another forum or modem in which we're going to communicate that to the Yeadon residents. So thanks for that question.
All right. So I just have one additional update regarding the health center. While we were there, we met several county officials who were instrumental in getting the project up and running. And I just wanted to share something that was sent to us from William Martin, who's the solicitor for Delaware County Council. It says, Mr. Mayor and Madam Council President, I'm pleased to meet both of you this morning at the grand opening of the Delaware County Wellness Center. The efforts of Yeadon Borough elected officials and staff were essential to the county's ability to fast track this project and open quickly in order to serve the residents of the county and the borough. In particular, I want to note the efforts of Mr. Rufus Stokes. The development team has emphasized to me that it was only through his responsiveness and professionalism that the project was able to stay on its aggressive schedule. The county is indebted to him for his efforts, and the residents of the county who receive services at the Wellness Center will do so because of effective public service servants like Mr. Stokes. Please be sure to share our gratitude with him. So I know that sometimes as a co-director, we're typically on the receiving end of some words that are not accolades. So I just wanted to make sure to take the opportunity to share that with Mr. Stokes and thank him for his efforts in making this happen. It was a very aggressive timeline. They had a mere 3 months to outfit the entire center, and we're thankful for his efforts as well. So there ends my report. We will move on to our manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. The items handled and announcements for this month are that management, let me see, yep. Management recommends hiring Ricardo Maxey and Timothy Swerzik as full-time public works employees. The motions for these recommendations will be on the legislative agenda for council's approval. Their resumes were emailed. Their skills and experience should prove to be an asset to the department. COVID-19 vaccinations are available and being given at multiple locations if you register for one. The information is available online and there is a call center set up for COVID-19 related inquiries. The telephone number is 484-276-2100. You may also send an email to COVID-19 resources at co.delaware.pa.us. Please be reminded that there is a shortage of vaccinations, so it may take time to obtain one. I'll also put this in the chat when I finish my report. Items in progress. Management met with Signal Service, NDI, and the police department this morning to discuss the camera project. NDI and/or the police department will provide more information during their report. Management emailed an update and recommendation earlier to council. The low volume road project is nearing completion. The borough received 50% of the funds on Friday, February 5th, in the amount of $19,615.10. The newsletter articles are past due. If you've not already done so, please turn yours into management. Please continue to check borough resources for updates on testing sites and other information. Items to be addressed are the following. 2 motions were accidentally omitted from the November 19th legislative meeting minutes. The minutes with the changes have been included in the caucus packet for this month. Management is requesting the council vote to amend the minutes with these changes at the legislative meeting next week. The county is seeking to fill vacancies at the county health department for a clinical lead and administrative support. Please see the county or borough website for more information, as those have been posted. Management will continue to fill vacancies at the borough, and the borough is always accepting applications. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Madam President, Madam President, I have a question for management, if I may.
Yes, thank you.
Question. I saw the 2 applicants that you referenced in your report. My question is, how many applicants applied for each position? And if there was more than just those, each one of those, I personally would like to see, to compare the other ones, if that's possible.
So there were, I think off the top of my head, because there's multiple positions open, so I'll have to double check the website. But for example, on Indeed, I think there were at least 46, 47 applicants listed for the Public Works Department. However,
How many? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How many did you call back for a second interview? I'm sure that you or whomever didn't just choose the one person out of
Just
many
these
applicants.
2 gentlemen based on their qualifications. Everybody else only had one interview other than these 2 gentlemen.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Johnson?
Yeah.
I have a question. I'd like to say something, Dr. McCabe.
Okay.
Dr. McCabe,
I still think that the council should be given the resume of the finalists.
Yeah.
And then I also want to mention that I did not get the newsletter or the calendar, and somehow I'm still not on the mail list.
So the resumes were emailed to council for these 2 gentlemen. You should be getting your calendar and newsletter, if not tomorrow, early next week.
Did you hear me say I didn't get last month, the last time, and I don't think my address is on the list?
I did, and I did have the gentleman, the vendor, Speedy, looking into that, and he's given us other recommendations on how we can proceed with that going forward. And even Ms. Braxton had followed up again with them today. And I have delegated that to other people to handle. So they were working on that today as well. I asked them to follow up to confirm whether or not you received it. So I guess nobody called you yet, but we wanted to make sure that the areas that said they didn't receive it had received it. For example, Allen Drive was an issue, but Mr. Trent had informed us that they ended up getting it. So I did request that they reach out to you to confirm whether or not your block received it. Again, that was earlier today that I asked, was that done? So I guess they did not get a chance to reach out to you. However,
I didn't hear
the list along with a few of the other streets that were brought up before. So you should have it shortly, if not tomorrow, next week.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. McCabe, can I also assure you that they're not individual addresses. The way that the mailing works is that we drop them in bulk to the post office, and it's every household, like kind of like flyers. So they're not individually addressed. So I don't want you to think that it's your specific address.
One should come to my household, right?
Yes,
Correct.
but it's not, but I'm saying it's not like your address, your specific addresses on the list. It's just, borough resident. And they are supposed to, the post office is supposed to deliver one, the postal carriers are supposed to
It
deliver
says
one to
borough
every house.
resident, but I believe it has 112 Norma Road.
Miranda, is that,
I don't know, the way that,
so when I received them, it
yeah,
just
how it
says
is, it
resident.
should say postal customer. So the way
Yeah.
mail
But
is
the
addressed,
address is still there, just not my name.
I believe that's how they address it, at least
No.
not on the newsletter, and it shouldn't be the same on the calendar. It's this little postal code that's given, and then the post office is supposed to distribute it the same way they distribute the like Acme, Giant, ShopRite, all those pamphlets and flyers. It's just supposed to be something that they give to every resident. It shouldn't necessarily be labeled your address. It's just supposed to come out the same way you get the circulars for the supermarkets. However, for some reason, Lansdowne post office, because they deliver your mail in bulk, they cannot get it right. No matter how many times Mrs. Hoff goes to them and talks to them in their transitioning from their, I forget the name of the head, the postal master. I think that's what they call the head.
Postmaster.
Postmaster, right. That person has changed multiple times in a matter of the past 2 years. So every time we work with them and think we're getting it fixed, they switch people again. Mrs. Hoff goes in directly to talk to them each time they mess it up. Even Sir Speedy has followed up, who handles our calendar, and they're just not getting anywhere. We just cannot get the post office to do what needs to be done. And if you remember, the one year we hired someone to deliver it, and then that was a nightmare because people complained that, and there was video footage where they were like throwing them and giving multiples to different households. So far, the different things we have tried are just not working. We consider community service at some point, but right now, due to COVID, community service is not out and delivering. So we are trying to figure out the best way to get you guys this information. But unfortunately, so far it hasn't worked. So Sir Speedy has come up with a suggestion for us to deliver to the specific addresses. And like I said, Ms. Braxton was in communication with Michael from Sir Speedy earlier today, and she gave us a breakdown of that discussion. So we are already trying to figure out how best to proceed for next.
Maybe since mine always seems to be a problem, that
This might be something we could talk
you
offline.
could send it in regular mail.
Yeah.
Like you could pay the 39 or 40 cents, whatever it is.
Madam President, can we get back to for a second
I would appreciate it if you would consider that.
All right, so we'll
I'd
definitely.
like to go back to President Monroe. And President Monroe, again, we are getting ready to hire somebody, and the council has not seen the resumes.
So the resumes were emailed, Dr. McCabe.
I've seen the resume.
Yeah, they were emailed, but I like to follow up on
I did not get one.
Okay, so they
I raise my hand here because this is what I want to ask from all of you. The officers that are.
So Ms. Nesmith, I'm sorry, we'll have to wait for you to be recognized.
Okay, because I don't know who's who, because there's no pictures of you, or I mean, even if you don't want a live one, there should be.
All right. So we are.
I'm Dolores McCabe.
And
right,
I'm
so
Clara Johnson.
Yeah, some of our counselors call in, so wouldn't have a picture available. But we are. We'll make sure to follow up with this offline. I'm sorry, Miranda. Does that end your report?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
It may end her report, but it does not end my question to her report. And I want to get back to the applicants because it appears to me that whenever we're hiring somebody, council does not get the choice of choosing. It's already chosen, and we're voting. I personally would like to see more than just one application to come to the floor to give us a choice and you know what you think it would be all right to bring to the floor, but it gives us no choice.
So the responsibility of the borough management is to sort through these applications. The counselors aren't supposed to act as like a human resources department. you know, we hired the borough management to sort through the various applications and then make recommendations to us for voting. Mr. Gibbs, could you elaborate on the duties and expectations of
But we
council when it
always
comes to
have,
hiring?
we always have done it that way. No one has ever explained that it should be some other way. And
All right, so
most
that's
of
what I
our
was just asking of Mr.
responsibilities have
Gibbs.
been taken from us. So we shouldn't have to even lose the ability to make input in terms of the hirees.
Mr. Gibbs.
Madam President, I think that the solution could be that information is presented in executive session to council members that could satisfy this issue. Ultimately, it is up to what council has done is appointed the borough manager as the HR person. But if council wants to see information, they're entitled to do so either probably through an executive session. I would want to be careful about bringing someone's application to the floor and having a public debate about it, because sometimes people who are applying for a job haven't told the other job they're applying. So there is.
Is that not what executive session is for, before we come to the floor, so we can come to a consensus as to which name or which person that we would want to see in that position?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I suggested that's what I just suggested, that we could probably do something in executive session. But I know the council before has asked the borough management for the recommendations.
I put just my quick 2 cents. I'm personally most comfortable with borough manager reviewing all the specifications for the employee, making the recommendation. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2. I mean, if there's only one qualified person, then they make that recommendation to council, because honestly, I don't know if many of us do know all of the specifications and qualifications and licensing and all that stuff that are required for the job. So I rather the borough manager, since they're the ones on the hook for the decision anyway, if the employee doesn't work out, they're accountable for that. I don't want to be accountable for that.
I think it takes it a step beyond accountability, because if we're accepting the recommendation from, you know, we still have the choice on whether we want to select them. But we've hired the borough management to weed out the applicants that may not qualify for the position, who may not interview well, or who we may not be able to meet a salary requirement. So what we end up with are the candidates that are eligible for hire, and that's typically how a HR department would work. And we have hired borough management to represent us as HR, and we're just the final decision. I think if we start getting into,
it appears to me that we're not the final decision. Final decision to me has been made when there's only one applicant for the position. That decision has been made. I don't want to seem to be the senior, from years in past. But in years in past, it has been more than one name that came to the floor, because council met in executive beforehand to come to a consensus before coming, before we came to the floor.
I agree with Claire.
all right. So
May
we
I
can
make
have
a suggestion, please? I think not only should borough management be responsible for the hiring of employees, but they should be responsible in a collaborative effort with the respective directors of the departments that they're hiring for. I think it would be better if the final applicants, if there's 2 final applicants, it comes down to 2 applicants who are qualified for the job, then those final 2 applicants, their information should be shared with council. So council could take a look between the 2. But I believe the decision should be made in conjunction with the help of the respective directors of the department. I don't think it
So
should
we're
just,
also,
I don't think it
we're
should
also
just be in the
assuming
hand.
that,
I'm sorry, I
that
did
it's not.
not interrupt. I don't think it should just be in the hands of one person in borough management, because we did hire directors who have the absolute expertise in the job that we hired them to do. So they have a little more in-depth knowledge as well. So it should be a collaborative effort.
Ms.
Madam
Croswood,
President,
was
if
there,
I may, and I know that we're beating a dead horse here, I was going to be quiet. Miranda and I sat through a training back in October as it relates to borough code. And we are following the borough code, PA borough code, as it relates to hiring. Councilor Roca, you're right. We are including the directors of the department as we go through the interview process. So Jeff sat through the interviews. Rufus sat through interviews as well with code officers.
Mm-hmm.
There were second interviews. We weed people out before we bring it to you because we don't want to waste your time. There were people who failed drug tests. There were people who could not get through the criminal background checks. There was one guy who just recently, for a code position, he refused the job because of the pay. We weren't, he was making $60,000 somewhere else. Unfortunately, we start at $41,000 for code officers. So we go through all of the due diligence and bring you what pretty much is qualified and left over and present it. And that's why you got the 2 resumes. So we are following the borough code, and we are including the directors of the departments as well.
I agree, Nafis, that you should do most of the legwork. But you should bring those resumes back to us, and we should be part of the decision-making process. We should not be just delegating the decision-making to the staff. It should include the counselors. That's why the public has elected us.
all right, thank you. We will move on to our solicitor's report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I want to first start by talking about shade trees. I feel like we talk about shade trees a lot. Councilor Johnson and I have done a lot of work recently around figuring out what the law is in the borough and how we should process shade trees. I want to give accolades to Jeff, who's done an amazing job identifying all the trees. Here's what our process will be moving forward, and Councilor Johnson, jump in if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to notify everyone who has a shade tree that there's a borough shade tree in front of their home. There will be a process that we begin next week where there's certain shade trees that Jeff has deemed dangerous that we're going to begin the process of removal. Next week, I'll ask for authorization from council to begin that process. When we send out the notice letters, we're also going to tell people that when we anticipate doing the work and what the work entails, and that the people are responsible, not for the removal of a dangerous tree, but they will be responsible for putting the blocks back that are disturbed by the tree in front of their property. This is consistent with the borough law and the borough ordinance. One of the things that people have hung their hats on is that the borough is responsible for replacing the blocks. When I read the borough code, the Yeadon code, it talks about a shade tree trust fund for the maintenance of trees and the removal of trees and planting of trees. There's nothing that requires a borough to maintain the sidewalk. And as a solicitor, much like our discussions around driveways, I have some concern about the borough being responsible for replacing blocks of concrete, because ultimately we can become responsible if it's a tripping hazard. So Councilor Johnson has pointed out that the biggest problem is the lack of information. So we're going to work with borough management, with Jeff, to make sure that people are getting the information in enough time that they're able to process the costs that could be coming their way, and also the removal of a tree. They'll also have the ability to ask the borough for a replacement tree if that's necessary. Councilor Johnson, did I summarize it well?
Yes, you did. Jeff has also did a great timeline for the trees. There are some trees, as you can see, that just is not conducive for that little strip in the sidewalk. He has also outlined some trees that might be conducive for that area. Also, when the trees are given to Yeadon, because we get these trees free, as everyone know, when they're given to Yeadon, we can also offer if any resident want a tree on their property as well. However, that resident will be responsible under the abatement law to maintain that tree. That will not be a borough's responsibility. One thing that you did forget to mention, once we remove the tree, we also, as the borough, remove the stump as well. We have identified 168 shade trees here in Yeadon. And I think that's about it.
That's 168 out of compliance or just 168 total?
Well, it's 168 in total. We have identified those that are deceased, those that can be maintained. Jeff has done a great job with it. I will actually email to each one of the counselors exactly what Jeff did with his timeline. He did a great job.
Does a resident need a permit or any kind of permission to plant a shade tree on their own? Since
Not on their property. You can plant anything.
Right.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I'm sorry. Yeah, not on their property. You can plant on your property, but you cannot plant on the concrete area, and that's only because of the piping and all of those other things that's under the ground there.
And we're responsible for the maintenance.
If it's on your property.
No. I'm talking about just like the shade tree strip, like, you know, the curb. So I see occasionally people plant like a little baby tree now, but 10 years later, it's like a redwood, like tearing up the concrete. Like, so do they have the ability to plant that on their own without the further permission or guidance of what kind of tree it's going to grow out to be when we're all gone?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gibbs, but would they not have to get permission from the borough to plant it on that curbside again? I'm
You'd have to
sorry,
get a permit from the. They would have to get a permit from the borough.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also cataloged the shade trees. So if that one doesn't appear on the list, then we know that, you know, it wasn't one that the borough planted.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually have a question. So my concern is we're supposed to be a tree line community. So if we're removing the effective shade trees, and we should if they're a hazard, how are we going to look in the future if we don't replace some of those shade trees?
So I'm, you know, that's not a legal question.
That's the beautification of Yeadon.
I suggested that there are different kinds of trees, and we could put smaller trees on the curve that would not, you know, eventually mess up the sidewalk and that type of thing.
Right.
There are a lot of very nice small trees that you see them in Philadelphia all the time that don't only grow to a certain size.
That's right, because if a tree grows tall, then you can just assure that the roots are going to grow long. Jeff had identified some trees that would be suitable for that area there where the roots don't grow so long, where they wrap around pipes.
So, and then we are also donated trees, and Public Works does replace some when they're able. I know that prior to Mr. Wilkinson coming on board, I think right before, the previous director planted 20 shade trees around the borough.
Right.
So we do receive the trees for free, and we do replace them. Some of them are planted along West Cobbs so they can get stronger before they're placed in front of a residence. Jeff, Mr. Wilkinson, if you're on, could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, so Jamie from the Stormwater Collaborative, she actually sent out an email a couple months ago saying that she was going to place an order for this upcoming spring to receive more shade trees. And then in regards to the whole cataloging of the shade trees, it's still I'll call it a rough draft. I still have to go around. I've kind of had our hands tied with these past couple snowstorms. So I kind of got it delayed a little bit, but to kind of make the final, just checking all the information and the addresses, making sure we're, as accurate as possible and our counts as accurate as possible as well.
Exactly. And when Jeff and I spoke, he did say that to me, and I actually said to him, I understood the dilemma that he was in with the snow and the other things that came aboard. So when he actually draft what he has to do, he'll send it to me, and I'll make sure that all counselors get that draft.
All right, and then there will be a correspondence that's sent out to residents who have a shade tree, notifying them.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Notifying
Yes,
them that there is a shade tree on their property, and then what they need to do to maintain it, how they would contact the borough if there were any issues.
Exactly. And I'd just like to give a shout out to Rufus because he worked diligently on that.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Gibbs, is there anything else for your report?
Yes, ma'am. As you reported, Madam President, we were successful in having a zoning application withdrawn in Upper Darby. We are still monitoring. My anticipation is that the applicant will try to have a use that still is problematic for the borough. So I've been in touch with their zoning solicitor and with the Upper Darby solicitor that if any other applications are filed, we'll be notified automatically, so we won't find out because of a posting on social media or a petition, even though those petitions and postings were incredibly helpful for us. And with that, there's nothing else I have to report today. We'll have some things we need to handle next week.
And Charles, you were excellent.
Thank you.
All right, so next is our tax collector.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight, it's a continuation of the December report. We closed the books on the 31st of December. And in early December, when we met, we had a total of $143,724.43, which covered the real estate, the trash, and the sewer for up until the 8th of December. We closed the books with $150,662.69. Early December, I told you that 308 residents still had outstanding tax bills. When we closed December 31st, the total had gone to 299. We have not received our new bills. They're a little slow in coming out, but we expect everyone to have them by next week. The 2021 bill should come to your homes next week. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We will move on to our library report. Mr. Payne.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Due to COVID-19 protocol, the Yeadon Public Library is not currently open to the public, but we will reopen on Tuesday, February 16th during our regular hours for curbside service. Special thanks to Public Works for assisting us in disinfecting the building, and also they've been doing some special projects in the library while we've been closed, some painting and such, which is really nice that they were doing that for us while we've not been able to be in the building. We're excited to announce 2 upcoming Black History Month programs at the library. On Wednesday, February 17th at 6:30 p.m., the Yeadon Public Library will virtually present Dr. Daisy Century portrays Mary Fields, also known as Stagecoach Mary. Our guest performer, Dr. Century, is an actress, speaker, author, radio talk show host, and educator. So we're excited about that event. Also on Monday, February 22nd at 6 p.m., please join us for a virtual lecture entitled The Life and Legacy of Frederick Douglass by guest lecturer Dr. C. James Trotman. He's an author and professor emeritus and founding director of the Frederick Douglass Institute at Westchester University. And also, I'd like to give special thanks to Council President Monroe for graciously offering to be our host that evening. If you need more information on either of those programs, please call or email us at the library or check our website. This month, we checked out 1,841 items via curbside, and we handed out 150 5-day meal packs for youth on Tuesdays. We also offered 51 programs with 346 attendees. And that ends my report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our engineers report. Eileen.
Good evening. First thing on to update is that the 545, 547 Church Lane sewer laterals were completed. The final restoration will have to be done in the spring. And it is to be noted that the property owners will be responsible for a portion of that cost. So it's not the burden of the borough completely. I think last month I mentioned a problem in the 700 block of Yeadon Avenue. Unless Jeff has a further update, where we are now is that we had the borough put degreaser in the one property owner's line. And it does appear that maybe the blockage will break up and that with a plumber, they may be able to dislodge the whole thing. The borough's line, while it isn't in good condition, I don't think it's causing the problem that they're having. So we'll know more once that blockage is gone and we can look inside their lateral a little bit and see if the lateral's bad. But for now, it looks like we don't have to dig. The elevator maintenance contract, the solicitor got back to us today that the Tri-State, which is the company that did the modernization, that their proposal that was submitted late cannot be accepted. So we are checking references for the second bidder, and we'll have something for you next week with regards to a recommendation whether or not to go with them. The Borough Hall roof, the architect and our office met with them, and they have given a proposal to do the design and preparation for the bid for a new roof on that last section of roofing, as well as a door and a stairs coming out of the borough lunchroom to make it more safe for contractors and anyone to get on that roof if they need to. So their proposal is for $14,500, and that's to prepare the bids for the roof and fix the downspouts. They're not functioning, and to also put the door opening in the third floor lunchroom. So we'll be asking council for your consideration of that next week. On Yeadon Avenue, the contractor has finished the first block, and that's the end of the first 2018 grant work. And then the borough did receive another grant to do the next block, and that will start. We'll figure out when we're going to start that. But the first thing on their list, the next thing on their list is to do the 400 block of Holly. So they'll be moving to that next. Again, final restoration does not get done for several months because we need the road to settle. So while you won't see any activity there, you won't also be driving on a very smooth road. It has to sit for a while. And Miranda did bring up the meeting today on the cameras. So phase one of the proposal that was offered and accepted by the borough from Signal Service was to go around and identify locations for proposed cameras. And they submitted that today and it was discussed. And the feeling is that after the next, they had, I guess when we initially met with them, they had also said that they would like to do a radio site survey. And they gave a quote for that today, which is $15,480. Their first proposal was $6,250. So they've satisfied that. And now next they are asking for authorization to do a radio site survey. And that will tell you how what the connectivity is between all the proposed locations to make sure that each location that has been selected will actually provide the communication back to the borough system so that they'll know that the cameras will be functioning properly. So we will be bringing that up to you for action next week as well. And let me see if I have anything else. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, Eileen.
I do have a question for Eileen, please.
Council Roll Cloud.
Eileen, do we have a list of all of the manholes that are in disrepair?
No, not of manholes.
Or the sewer covers, the sewers?
We have, the way it's been working over the years is that if there's a problem, then the Public Works Department will televise it. Over the years, that's how it's been done. And then that's how they get on the list for repairs. So other than the locations that have already been televised, there is no additional list.
No, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not explaining it right. No, for example, there is a sewer cover located on Duncan Avenue, the 900 block of Duncan Avenue. And it's dislodged and the cement is broken up around same.
So I think you're talking about the storm inlets, Councilor Roclow.
Okay, then the storm.
Yeah, this inlets and grates. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jeff has been going around and he's been providing us with a list. I think we're up to about 6 right now that Jeff has provided us. So Public Works does do that survey as they go around, and that last, I think it was back in, we only finished it in 20, but I think early in, maybe late in 19 and all through 20, there were about 6 inlets that were taken care of during that time frame. And then we're proposing another list. Jeff, I think about the 6 that he's got is probably enough to spend a good chunk of money. But if there are unsafe ones, then Jeff can provide them to us, and we can ask for authorization to get them replaced.
Okay. How are we securing those defective inlets so that no one would trip over same or injure themselves? What are we doing for that?
So it all depends on the severity of it. There's one on, I think it's Church Lane, I forget what block. Cars were parking over it, so we simply just put some cones and a barricade over that on the grate part itself, to kind of avoid cars from running over it or parking over it, I should say. Other ones we have the ability to kind of temporarily fix in-house just to get us through, but it's not a long-term solution.
Right. Okay. I'll send pictures of some of the ones that are like really in bad disrepair.
That would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Jeff, I do have a book. It's a binder with road inlets from 2014, probably up until present, that I will share with you.
Okay, awesome. That'd be great.
All righty.
All right. Thank you. We'll move on to our departmental reports, starting with finance.
Nothing additional, Madam President.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Cave. Ordinance and zoning is Councilor Road.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, we did not have a meeting this past Tuesday due to Mr. Nichols having a personal emergency that he had to attend to. So unfortunately, I did not have a meeting, but we are rescheduling that meeting, I believe, for next Tuesday. Am I correct, Mr. Nichols?
You are, Counselor, yes.
Okay. What time? 6 o'clock, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll have the Zoom information on the website tomorrow.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. I do see Mr. Director Stokes on the line. Perhaps he would like to provide a little report, and I do have a few questions for you, Mr. Director Stokes, as well.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The January 2021 report for the Code Department. There was no zoning hearing applications for January. There was 3 zoning use applications. One was for 505 Holly Road for a basement barbershop, which was denied, which is not allowed. And we have 2 pending ones, one for 836 Rundell Avenue for a front yard driveway. And 910 Longacre Boulevard is looking to try to put up a 2-car garage and in-law quarters. That's being reviewed. We have several hot spots that was brought up, which was 1024 Church Lane, trash issue. We have 125 Chester Avenue. The complex, we had exterior property, parking lot issues and trash that was taken care of. 501 Union Avenue, the now was debris left on the parking lot, illegal dumping. Lock Avenue, which was the Washington Woods Apartments, there was trash and parking lot issues. 712 Yeadon Avenue, we had a property that someone moved out and left a lot of trash that was taken care of. 437 Cypress Street, we had an issue with the previous owner who used to have cats there. Apparently there was cats that were coming back to the property. We have been monitoring that area, making sure that there's no more cats. We had some action items. Again, it's the 3rd ward. There was some trash issues that we were working on getting them taken care of. Again, in our swim club, there were some trash issues. They are actually on top of it now. They are monitoring it more and making sure that people do not do illegal dumping. The Yeadon Avenue work area, we're monitoring that area. The engineer brought up 545 for 547 Church Lane sewer issue. They actually repaired it and took care of it. Once the weather breaks, I think the borough will be taking care of repairing the sidewalk area. If not, then we will get in touch with the 2 property owners in reference to that. And we had a property on Yeadon Avenue, which was 720, that actually had some exterior property issues. Some of the closed items that were taken care of, which was 125 Chester Avenue, the County Wellness Center, as the president of council and the mayor said, it has opened and has been operating. And 125 Chester Avenue, the parking lot area, it was actually repaved, remarked, and a lot better than it was before. We're still working to have a meeting with the property owners to make it a lot better than it is. And we had an issue that was reported by Vice President Ron Francis in reference to 727 Church Lane, an issue on the outside of the business that closed down that was taken care of by a code officer in the post office. Upcoming item, the new senior apartment complex, which is 558 Blansdown Avenue. We're met with them and they're in the process of getting that to start working on it in the near future. I would say 6 months or more. For the property maintenance abatements for January, we did not have any funding come in. There was none that was paid for December. And the code revenue, department revenue for January was $9,368.50. And that is my code report.
Thank you, Director Stokes. I have a few questions, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So my first question would be, what are the current ordinances with respect to tiny houses? I guess, i.e. in-law suites, other living structures being constructed on lawns or the backyard, in the backyard?
We don't have anything in reference to tiny houses.
Mm-hmm. So, because I did see in a report about the 2-car garage and in-law suite, and it says you're reviewing the application.
Yes.
So do we have any ordinances with respect to in-law suites? And
no, we have nothing in reference to in-law suites. We do have something in reference to garages. But yeah, this has to be reviewed because it's more than just a garage.
Right.
So, and plus he has to meet certain criteria when it comes to putting another structure on the property. He has to meet stormwater management ordinances, and he has to meet other requirements before any of this can be even taken care of. That's why it's being reviewed.
Right. But if there's no ordinances in place that we can refer to give proper direction, how are we making any decisions?
Well, in reference to an in-law suite on top of a garage, again, there is no ordinance in reference to in-law suites.
Mm-hmm.
In reference to the garage itself, there is certain criteria that he has to meet. So the from reviewing it, it would probably, it has to go through a lot before they can even do this. So this is nothing that's going to be approved or even done in the near future until we look at all of the requirements that he has to meet to put a garage on his property.
Okay, so I guess what I'm getting at is there.
Can I jump in? I think I can help out a little bit.
Well, let me finish this one first. So there was another property owner who literally built the exact same structure. And
no, you're talking about Cypress Street?
Right.
That's a garage with a storage area on the top.
Oh, it's a 2-story garage.
Yes, it's a garage with a storage area on the top. It is not a living quarters.
Okay, and we know that for a fact.
Yes, I actually been there.
Okay, all right. Well, do we need to secure permits in order to build those type of structures? We do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
that's why I'm saying it was being reviewed, because I have to review everything before any construction can be done.
Right. Well, you're reviewing the second one.
Yes.
So Solicitor Gibbs, you were going to say?
So with Rufus, I heard questions about borough ordinances. One of the things the borough hasn't done is we adopted the property maintenance code and the construction codes and the plumbing codes, international standards. And Rufus also, I'm sorry, Director Stokes is also governed by those. So just because the borough hasn't adopted an ordinance related to an in-law suite, we are still bound by the construction code, the fire code, plumbing code, and those are the standards that we would use. So the borough would not need a specific ordinance related to that, number one. Number two, when it comes to an occupied structure, the borough zoning code does have provisions related to occupied structures.
Right, okay, thank you.
Rufus, did I mess anything up there?
No, sir.
Okay, and my second question, were you able to give me the number for how many common driveways are actually in the borough of Yeadon?
No, I was not, but I will be getting that to you in the near future.
Okay, can I ask that you get that to me probably within the next 2 to 3 days?
Yes, ma'am.
We need it for our upcoming meeting, please.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I have a question for Mr. Stokes.
Yes.
Councilor Jones Waters.
Hello, Mr. Stokes.
Good evening.
I received a couple of complaints as it relates to our snow days and people putting chairs and cones blocking, or trying to save their parking spots. So I know there is an ordinance. I believe we need to enforce the ordinance so people can stop putting chairs and cones to protect or save their parking spots.
Yes, that was brought up to me in reference to the last couple of storms. I actually have talked to Lieutenant Burns in reference to that situation, and we are working together to take care of that issue.
Thank you.
Director Stokes, that wouldn't directly be under your purview, would it, since it's in the street?
Not really, but it was, it's a combination basically between the two departments.
And there's an ordinance. There is an ordinance.
So in the past, I know that Public Works would go and retrieve items that were left in the street as abandoned trash.
Yes, we actually would help them out.
People would then get creative and actually put trash bags in the street to hold their spaces when they ran out of other items. So I think that the key is just being consistent and persistent and informing the borough when this is happening so that they'll know that to go get the items out of the street.
Right. Welcome to Philadelphia.
Yes, we actually, in the past, the code department actually did assist Public Works with removing it because we would let them know and then we would both go out and remove the stuff from the street. But we did have some issues before with people coming out and yelling and screaming at us saying that, you know, because there's not that many parking spots. Why are we moving it? They shoveled the snow, but then we had to tell them that the street is owned by the borough, not them, and they don't own the street where they park it.
All right.
So anyone can take their spot, so you can clean the spot out.
The street is owned by the borough.
All right. So we'll just make sure to stay
Amen
consistent
to that.
with and continue to report. So we'll move on to Public Works.
Good evening, everyone. As previously mentioned, you know, the past couple of weeks, we've been extremely busy with the amount of snowfall that we've had. But, you know, we stayed on top of it, especially that last storm, and, you know, we cleared it and did a very, very good job. As Rufus just mentioned, and it was brought up, a lot of residents are putting, you know, different types of furniture in the street to block parking spots. I mean, personally, I've seen some crazy ones, lawn chairs, a baby playhouse. So if we can kind of ask residents and kind of get the word out a little bit better not to do so, it will make our plowing efforts a lot easier. So some abatements that we handled this month in January, 728 Yeadon Avenue. We cleaned up the property of all debris and trash. And we also contacted Mellon to give us a price quote on boarding up and painting the front of the property to increase the overall aesthetics of the property. As we all know, there's a massive tarp in the front of the house. So we do have that quote. 728 and Ave, as Rufus mentioned as well, we began cleaning up the property and then it snowed. We'll circle back and finish up cleaning the exterior of the property once the snow melts. At all the barrel plots, winter cutbacks on all perennials were performed. For example, the barrel hall in the library, final leaf cleanups were also completed at barrel-owned plots. With the snow on the ground and in the streets, the street sweeper operations have been suspended until all the snow melts up to avoid damaging any, any brushes and our sweeper. Street dirt totals in 2021 so far, we've collected 7.31 tons. Sanitary sewer, due to the age and condition of our sewer truck, we've kind of been cutting back on the preventative maintenance side of things just to kind of preserve what we have. The lines we service in January are 429 Wycombe Avenue, the 400 block of Holly, to kind of get us through until Garjoul can get out and do those repairs. And 744 Yeadon Avenue. As Eileen mentioned, we did some further investigation, poured some degreaser down in the homeowner's lateral, and it appears to be grease. I contacted the homeowner, and he is currently waiting for a plumber to come out. I'm in constant contact with that homeowner. So once the plumber comes out, more than likely I'll meet the plumber out there and kind of, get a better idea of what's going on there. So some highway maintenance. So we replaced and repaired broken and faded signs around town. Potholes are being patched as they arise. Storm inlets are being cleared from all leaf debris and dirt to assure stormwater runoff systems are operating as designed. Right now I'm in the process of kind of doing the first round of inspections on all these inlets and compiling a list. Street lights and traffic lights are being serviced and fixed as problems arrive. Some of the lingering street lights that we converted over from high pressure sodium fixtures to LED. These addresses include out front of 625 and 605 Bailey Road, 942 West Cobbs Creek Parkway, and 1140 and 1123 Allen Drive. We also perform monthly routine inspections on all the parking meters, and the monthly routine maintenance on all of the Borough fleet was also completed during the month of January. As Director Payne mentioned, we started rolling out our disinfecting efforts with our electrostatic sprayers. So, that's working out pretty good. And, we're continuing to clean the Borough Hall and all the facilities every day. And that concludes my report. Actually, one thing I do want to add. So in regards to the sanitary sewer issues, so I know we mentioned and we talked about kind of holding off on purchasing capital equipment. I believe the finance department was looking into, low interest rate loans. I just kind of wanted to circle back and see where we're at, kind of in this whole process here. Our sewer truck is on the kind of on its last leg. It is a 1982. So they do not make parts for, that truck anymore. So I'm only, dispatching it on emergency situations.
Nafis and I talked about that some time back. Nafis, do you have any information on maybe purchasing or leasing a sewer truck? I do believe that we had to outsource a sewer truck when we had that sewer backup on West Cobbs Creek Parkway. Jeff, could you please tell me if you can remember offhand how much it was to outsource, and was it by the day or by the week?
So for bigger projects, in situations like that, we do outsource the ADU services. I believe for 4-hour block increments is what they charge you by. And I believe it's around $1,500 for 4 hours. So you figure a full day will be around $3,000. My biggest fear right now is we're not maintaining these lines as much as we should. And, these backups are just going to, eventually, take over. I got a price quote for, God forbid our sewer truck goes down and we can't fix it. A month, it's around $6,000 to $7,000 to rent one for a month. And, that's something we need to have on hand 24/7.
Exactly. Nafis, can you give us some feedback?
Sure, Councilor. Councilor Cave and I are just about done wrapping up what we had discussed on the budget process. That was a capital expenditure that we did budget for 21 season, but we were going to go ahead and look at if we were going to do some sort of, large capital borrowing or something like that. So again, that process is just about wrapping up the assessment. Not saying that we're doing a borrowing at this time, that we will most certainly present to council. The other thing that we did do is look at the liquid fuse dollars. The allocation does come on or about April 1 of every year. And we have to make sure that we submit the information to PennDOT, to see if they approve it, because it is a large purchase. Purchases over a certain dollar amount, they have to approve prior to. So that was submitted, and we are waiting for an answer back from them. So we have two options right now that we're moving along with.
All righty, thank you. And you will get back with us in what will we call the near future?
PennDOT they normally give us back the response, the award letters. They always come in April. We usually get at the end of February, early March. So I anticipate that answer by then. The other assessment, that can be done within a matter of a week or so.
All right, so you'll give us some feedback. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So our next department is public safety.
Can I ask a question? My hand's up.
Mr. Brock.
You're muted.
Two issues on Bailey Road. More and more people are passing cars along Bailey Road. One, can you put the painted lines for no passing painted lines on Bailey Road, the entire length of the cemetery? And then the second question pertaining to Bailey Road, the 3 or 4 potholes that are directly pretty much in front of the fire station on Bailey Road. They've been there a long time and they're getting bigger. Is there any way they can be covered in? And it's not blacktop asphalt, it is concrete at that spot directly next to the small fire hydrant, directly across the street from the fire department, fire station.
Could you just, your first question? I didn't catch that.
He actually wanted lines in the street to divide the ongoing and coming traffic from where the cemetery is all the way down.
Yeah, so that's something I'll have to look into. I don't know if, with PennDOT, we have to get something approved, but I'll definitely look into that. And then in regards to the potholes outside of the fire station there, so it's too cold to do the concrete work right now. But for temporarily fix, we can put the blacktop cold patch in there, and that'll get us through until the spring when we can, better assess the situation and make repairs as needed.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to public safety. Mr. Mayor.
Hey, okay, thank you. Public Safety Committee met on Saturday, January 30th. Next meeting will be Saturday, February 27th. There are a couple of issues that came up that I have privately addressed with the with Nafis Nichols. And what else? One of them was the Delco alerts, which was addressed earlier. And at this point, I will ask if Lieutenant Burns is filling in for Chief Paparo, if he has anything to add at this point.
Yes. Well, the chief submitted his report. Obviously, that stands as is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address the parking issue with stuff in the street. Mr. Stokes and I had talked, and we did find a section in the code that would cover it. There's no specific section that says during snow you can't block the street, and that's what we're dealing with now. But 285-11 covers placing material or obstructions in the street, and that's the code that we've been enforcing. Today we removed numerous cones from Duncan Avenue, and they're up at the police station. We'll give them back, obviously, if somebody comes up for them, and we'll explain to them the code and why they can't have them in the street. But I just wanted to address that since it had been talked about.
Thanks, Lieutenant Burns. Any questions for the lieutenant?
Yes, I have a question for the lieutenant.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, Lieutenant, we did speak earlier, and thank you for your prompt response to same. What can we do to try to get the word out to the residents with respect to commercial vehicles being parked on the being parked in a residential area? We're noticing motor coaches, school buses, so forth and so on, being parked in the area, and we have ordinances against same. So what can we do to get that word out so people will definitely know?
Well, I think the signage, that always helps. The one that we had spoke about today, that gentleman was on his lunch break, and I actually spoke with the company who reached out to the gentleman who owned or was operating the motor coach. And they had told me they didn't monitor how long he was there. He was there for a short period of time between jobs, and they will tell him he's not allowed to park that on the street anymore. Other than that, I think it's signage. And then a lot of it is people calling us to tell us, hey, this thing's parked over here. It may be something that we were missing as we're driving past, or we haven't been down that street to see that it's parked there. But a lot of it is just encouraging people to call us and let us know so that we can respond to it before it becomes an issue.
Very well, thank you.
Okay, and then Director Rufus Stokes on the line. He's also the Director of Emergency Management. I know some of the things he may have covered already as in code, but I just want to give him the opportunity if he has anything additional for emergency management to report.
Good evening again. Most departments have been working with each other and taking care of the duties that they are required to do. Public Works, of course, was taking care of the snow issue throughout the borough in the last few snowstorms. The fire department actually have been responding to all the emergencies in EMS, and so has the police. We are always working with each other to monitor when there is any kind of emergency or snow issue. So all the departments are working together. It's something that is not on the report. We do have a repeater system that the police fire department do use, which is the Yeadon Old Town Watch frequency. That is way old and out of date. And I did get contacted from the person who has been monitoring that, which is Mr. Ed Dunlap, a member of the fire company who has been doing it for years. He did get a quote in reference to updating that radio system that we would use in the case of an emergency where all the departments can be on the same channel. So I have that information to pass it on. Other than
That'd
that,
be great. That'd be great.
okay.
Yeah, there is my report. The only thing I just want to give a little shout out. I see Anthony Patterson's on the line from the Nile Swim Club. And we did talk about the historical marker before you got on the line and the yeoman's job you're doing with the food distribution, 1,000 meals or boxes each Saturday. This Saturday will be 2,000. So you got a big shout out before you came on, right?
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's a pleasure working with you guys and continue to work with you guys and hopefully to have a productive summer with the Nile this summer.
Very good.
Thank you.
Keep up good work. We appreciate it. There ends my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. The last report would be our recreation report. Mr. Francis. Mr. Francis. All right.
Madam President, can you hear me? Sorry about
Yes,
that.
I can hear you now.
Good evening. We have no report at this time, Madam President.
Thank you. I'm sure things are going to pick up as more vaccines are distributed. And we'll be able to have a recreation report again.
Right, we're monitoring the situation, so we just want to make sure everybody stays safe.
All right. I do have one question for management. Are there any plans for the reopening of the Borough Hall for rentals?
At this point, Madam President, no. We are kind of waiting to see how the vaccinations go. We're looking at the numbers that the county send out on a consistent basis and also looking at the best practices and what other surrounding municipalities are doing. So we will probably have a full-fledged update for you guys in March once we get some more data.
All right. Thank you very much. So without further ado, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you so much.
Second.
Thanks so much. This meeting is adjourned.